Aloha, my name is Billy F. Schultze. I'm a student with the Institute of Clinical Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine here in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm doing my Materia Medica presentation on Binglong, the parasite killer. The objective of the presentation is to demonstrate an understanding of Binglong from a basic botanical perspective and its uses primarily in traditional Chinese medicine to include current research and clinical applications of the plant. Here are my references. My main reference was Materia Medica, Clinical Reference and Study Guide, and then I used various references, everything from the National Gardening Association to WebMD. Here's an overview of my presentation, introduction, botanical features of the betel nut palm, which is what Binglong comes from, and then some traditional Chinese medicine information, channel tropism and qualities, functions and indications when it relates to parasites, functions and indications when it relates to water accumulation, qi, and food stagnation, preparation of the betel nut to become Binglong, and definitely precautions. Other uses of the betel nut, living sample, and conclusion. Binglong is a traditional Chinese medicinal herb. Binglong, also known as betel nut, Latin semen aracea. There's a Chinese simplified text up there. It's not a nut at all, but the seed of the betel nut tree. The betel nut tree is a species of palm that grows in much of the tropical Pacific, Asia, East Africa, and can be found here in Hawaii. So it's a local boy, local girl. Here's the botanical features of the betel nut palm. You see an artist's rendition of the betel nut palm there with its fruits and flowers. It is a perennial palm tree. It can grow in full sun to partial or even dappled shade. As a side note, betel palms are used as shade trees in places like the Philippines, so you can find them along streets, pathways, and around houses. They provide shade and keep things cool. Water preferences, it's domestic, perfect for the tropics. Soil, pH preferences, slightly acidic to neutral. Plant height 25 to 60 feet. There are some very tall betel nut palms here in Hawaii. Leaves evergreen, fruit green when it's immature, just like my living sample. It's kind of hard to find a mature betel nut. We'll talk about why that is later on. They are approximately 2 inches long and they mature to a orange-yellow color. The flowers are white, approximately under 1 inch long and fragrant, and the botanical term to describe both the flowers and the fruit are showy. It's a taproot, that's the underground structures. It has a resistance to humidity, so that makes it again a perfect tree for the tropics. And it's a monoecious plant, means that it can reproduce by itself. That's why it's both a local boy and a local girl. Channel tropism and qualities. The betel nut affects the large intestine channel, as you can see in our diagram, and the stomach channel. The qualities, it's pungent, it's bitter, and it's warm. And it's because of its warming qualities, the betel nut is also a widely used narcotic here in the Pacific and much of Asia. Functions and indications as it relates to parasites. So the betel nut is best to expel parasites from the body. I know I titled this presentation Parasite Killer because that sounded more dramatic, but actually what it does, it has the ability to drain downward the body of parasites like tapeworms and roundworms and flatworms, pinworms and threadworms, and you can forgive me now for my pronunciation of this, Fasciopelasiasis, which I believe is a type of flatworm. And on the bottom there, you'll say with Nanguzi, Fezi, with Shizhenzi, These are the betel nut is used in with these formulas to get rid of these particular parasites. And in the case of tapeworms, it kind of gets rid of it singularly, and we'll go over that later on. It also gets rid of, it helps to alleviate parasitic conditions. So it's very helpful in treating malaria. As you see, our malaria carrying mosquito there. Aside from expelling parasites, Bing Long helps with the water accumulation. And if you see our top left-hand picture there of those 2 feet where there's massive water accumulation, so much so you can actually see somebody put their fingers there, and you can see the finger indentation on those feet. It helps with edema and weakness of lower limbs as a result of edema, so like the picture here to the right. It helps with qi and food stagnation, and it helps with colic and tenesmus of dysentery. You'll see a colicky baby there, and a lot of babies of the Schultze family, and I think maybe it's because of our Asian genes and our inherited qi, we always seem to have colicky babies. And it also helps with constipation, abdominal distension, and pain. And if you have a abdomen that's distended as a result of constipation like that, just go to the emergency room. That is a distended abdomen. Betel nut or Bing Long can help to alleviate those or treat those. Uh, Preparations and precautions. So this is the showy orange betel nut. Um, Betel nuts are used here, especially in Hawaii, and they're chewed here. And the reason why I can't find, or why I have difficulty finding a mature betel nut is because usually the local people that like to chew betel nuts will pick them all. And here's a dissected betel nut, and I'm going to keep in mind again, it's not a nut, it's just the seed of the betel nut palm, and there it is. After it's decocted, that means it's been soaked in water and dried. This is how it looks. And during this time, I refer to it no longer as betel nut, I refer to it as Bing Long. And then this is a Bing Long extract here, and you can get this over the counter. For best results, use the raw unprocessed seed and soak in water for several hours before decocting. 6 to 12 grams for those things like qi and food stagnation, water accumulation, and 60 to 120 grams used singly for tapeworm. Caution in spleen deficiency with loose stool, diarrhea, and prolapse. And you want to serve it cool. You don't want to serve it warm to avoid possible side effects like vomiting. Other uses of the Bing Long. So like we talked about earlier, it's used as a narcotic. Alongside nicotine, alcohol, and caffeine, betel nuts are believed to be one of the most popular mind-altering substances in the world, and that's according to the BBC. I also read that in 2015 in Taiwan, 80 to 90% of the oral cancer was related to betel nut chewing. Culturally, it's closely associated with Vietnamese people's social and cultural life, appearing in funerals, weddings, betrothal ceremonies, and some kinds of art forms, creating a new characteristic in Vietnamese culture. And that's according to the Voice of Vietnam. For the betrothal ceremonies, and I'm tearing up the pronunciation there, the mother or the father of the groom and the father of the bride, once they agree their children will be married or are fine with their children will be married, will chew betel nut to seal the deal. Western medicine is used for treatment of mental disorder called schizophrenia, and eye disorder called glaucoma, and as a digestive aid. And then for veterinary medicine, it's used very much like one of its main functions, which is to expel tapeworms. It also helps to expel tapeworms in cattle, dogs, horses, and used for treating intestinal colic in horses. This is my dissected living sample of an immature Bing Long picked from a nearby garden in West Oahu on April 8, 2020. This actually was just picked right across the street. I went ahead and tried to dissect that there, and you'll see the characteristic red juice of the betel nut. I'm not holding the betel nut for Ramson. That's just a newspaper and my watch to show that I took it today, that I harvested it today. Conclusion: demonstrate an understanding of Bing Long from a basic botanical perspective and its uses, primarily in traditional Chinese medicine, to include current research and clinical applications of the plant. Thank you, mahalo, and any questions?